Move on with the second portion, okay, of this chapter, okay, your quadratic inequalities. Okay, so previously you always only work with linear inequalities. Okay, now you have quadratic inequalities. So the steps you do for quadratic inequalities is always the same thing as what you do for your quadratic equations. Okay, I will factorize the quadratic equation first. Okay, if the inequality is greater than 0, we take the positive region. If the inequality is less than 0, we take the negative region. Okay, and then before you do or perform this step, okay, we always make sure the quadratic equation has a positive a. Okay, which means your coefficient of x squared is more than 0. Okay, so that I can always draw a smiley shape or a U-shaped curve. Okay, so let's take a look at the examples below. Okay, so in this case, the first two examples is already in your factorized form. Okay, so you have this times this is more than 0. Okay, so very simple. What you do first is, okay, you always draw this U-shaped curve that you have here. Okay, then you put plus, minus, plus. Okay, what you can imagine this as, okay, this line or this horizontal line here, this is your x-axis. Okay, whatever is above, why I put the plus here, because this is your positive y region. This is your positive y region. This portion here is your negative y region. Okay, so essentially the 2 points here, these are your x-intercepts. Okay, and obviously the smaller x-intercept or the smaller value is always on the left hand side, right? So based on the factorized form that you have, your solutions are -1 and 3. Okay, so after you have done this, look at the inequality sign. If it's more than 0, I'm going to take the 2 plus regions. Okay, so these are the 2 plus regions, which means the region that I'm interested in for the solution of the inequality is anything that is less than -1. So x less than -1. Or, okay, the other region here, which is anything more than 3. Okay, so x more than 3. Okay, so whenever you have a more than 0 sign, you always have the 2 extreme ends. And if you have 2 extreme ends, you always have either or, which means 2 values essentially, or not say 2 values, sorry, 2 inequalities itself. Okay, for your solution. Okay, now let's take if the scenario is less than 0. So same thing, in your factorized form, go and work out what are your x solutions first. Okay, so -2/3 and 5. So if this is less than 0, the region that you are looking at is this negative region here. So this pool that you have here essentially is between these two values. So you have x more than -2/3, but it is less than 5. Okay? Okay, next. Okay, you have this question here of x squared minus 5. Okay, one thing that students like to do, oh, I have x squared minus 5, I bring my constant over. Then you go in square root. No, please do not do this. Okay, never ever do this. Okay, what you should do is, okay, identify. This is the form of your a squared minus b squared. Okay, so I have a minus b, a plus b. Okay, where your b is square root 5. Okay, which means essentially, if I were to draw out the curve, okay, same thing, because my x squared is already positive, it's a smiley curve. Okay, plus, minus, plus. Your two roots are negative square root 5 and positive square root 5. Less than or equals to 0, you are taking the negative region. So you circle the negative region, which means I am looking at a range. More than something and less than something. Okay, but because there is the equal sign here, now when I write my solutions, I must have the equal sign. Okay, so your final solution is x more than or equals to negative square root 5, but less than or equals to square root 5. Okay, based on the diagram that we have drawn here. Okay, so always draw this diagram for your own reference. Okay, same thing on the last example. Okay, I have minus 2x squared minus x plus 3 less than or equals to 0. Okay, so as mentioned earlier, okay, always make sure that the quadratic equation has a positive a, which means the coefficient of x squared must be positive. So I multiply minus 1 throughout. Okay, the sign changes, and your inequality sign also flips, because when I multiply or divide by a negative number, okay, you always flip your inequality sign. Okay, after you have done that, do your factorized form, okay, of 2x plus 3 and x minus 1. From there, draw out your diagram. So same thing, plus, minus, plus. Okay, your two solutions are minus 3 over 2 and 1. Okay, and you look at the inequality sign that you have, more than or equals to, which means you take the positive region. Okay, so when I'm taking a positive region, I always have two extreme ends, which means I should have two values. Okay, so because there's the equal sign here as well, okay, it will be x less than or equals to minus 3 over 2 or x more than or equals to 1. Okay, but okay, never leave your answers in improper fraction. Okay, so this should be x less than or equals to minus 1.5. Okay, so essentially, the only additional thing that you do for quadratic inequalities is to draw out this U-shaped curve. Okay, plus minus plus, identify the region that you're interested in, then come up with your two types of inequalities based on the scenario given. Okay, lastly, let's take a look at an example here. Okay, this is a bit of a different scenario because now you're working with a negative x squared. Okay, so how do we work with a negative x squared? Okay, first things first. Okay, the question is already factorized for you, so you don't have to expand it. But take note, minus 2x times x, you get minus 2x squared, which means this will be a set face. Okay, so now your plus minus plus is a bit different. Your plus is here. Sorry, your plus is here. Your minus is here. Your minus is here. Okay, so this is the different part. This is a different part when you're working with a -2 or a negative value of a. Okay, then same thing. You just throw in your solutions. So you will have 1. This intercept here is 1. This intercept here is 1.5. Okay, then based on the inequality sign, less than or equals to, I'm taking the negative regions. Okay, so your final answer will be x less than or equals to 1 or x more than or equals to 1.5. Okay, so this is what you have to, or what changes when you have a negative a value. Okay, just change the shape of the curve. Okay, but okay, to prevent confusion in the exams, okay, just always do what we did here. Okay, change your a value to a positive a value, then you work from there, so that the curve that you're always working with is a smiley face. Okay, okay, so now let's look at the reverse of quadratic inequalities, where now you are given the solutions and asked to form back the equation, or not say the equation, sorry, the inequality itself. Okay, so just now we had the inequality and we were asked to solve. Now is they give you the solution. Okay, and then they ask you to identify the unknowns a and b. Okay, so first things first. Okay, based on these two, we know that these are roots. So when you put them back into the bracket, okay, this is your bracket form, right? Okay. Next, how do you determine what is the inequality sign? Okay, so if we draw out the curve, okay, put in your roots, -1/2 and 3, which is what is given to us. And then because this is in between two inequalities, which means it's always in the negative region here, because when we draw, it's always plus minus plus, right? Only at the extreme ends will I have either or. Okay, so since it between two inequality signs, which means it should be in the negative region. That's why the inequality sign is less than 0. Okay, then from there, just expand out to try and replicate this form here. Okay, so when you expand out, you get 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. Okay, the constant term of minus 6 is on the right hand side, so I will bring it to the right hand side first. Okay, so you bring the 3 over, it becomes positive 3. Okay, then you realize I need to make this 3 negative 6, which means from this step to this step, you multiply by minus 2 throughout. Okay, when you multiply by minus 2, take note of the sign changes. Okay, minus 2 times 2x squared minus 4x squared. Okay, minus minus become plus 10x. Then remember to flip the sign because I'm multiplying by a negative number. So now you have made the right hand side the same. Minus 6 minus 6. Now is when you can compare the coefficients. So A is minus 4. B is positive 10. That's it. Okay. Okay, so let's just go through one example below here. Okay, to give you another example of how we solve such questions. Okay, working from scratch. So let's do part B together. Okay, 2x squared plus a more than bx is only satisfied by these two inequalities. Okay, so these are either or, right? Okay, which means if we draw out the curve first, okay, always draw out the curve first, mark out your two roots, okay, minus 2 and 3, plus, minus, plus. So look at the inequalities that you have. It is the either or scenario, which means you should be looking at the extreme ends of this, which is the positive region. Okay, so let's try and form back our roots. Okay, so if I form back our roots, we will get x plus 2 and x minus 3. Okay, more than 0 because we identified, right, is the positive region over here. Okay, but okay, take note, over here it is a 2x squared. Okay, if I just leave it like that, I will only get x squared, which means I need to include a 2 outside here to make it 2x squared. Okay, this is the portion that you need to take note of. Okay, not all the time is always x squared. If there's a 2 here or a 3 here or 4, okay, you have to add in the value here so that I can get the same x squared coefficient. Okay, next. Okay, from there all I need to do is to do the expansion. Okay, so whether you want to multiply the 2 first or you expand the 2 brackets first is up to you. Okay, so I'm going to expand the 2 brackets first. You're going to end up with x squared minus 2x minus 6. Okay, then multiply the 2 in. Okay, I'll get 2x squared minus 4x minus 12 more than 0. Okay. Okay, sorry, there's a mistake here. This should be just minus x. Okay, so this one should be minus 2x. Okay, so after that, okay, express it in the same form as they did. 2x squared plus a more than bx, which means you must move your x term to the right hand side. I will have 2x squared minus 12 more than 2x. Okay, then you just compare your terms from here. Okay, so therefore, a equals to minus 12, okay, b equals to 2. That's it. Okay.